I sat quietly in front of a tall mirror, watching the makeup artist add the final touches to my face. Morning sunlight streamed gently through the windows of the bridal suite at the Drake Hotel. My wedding dress, pure white and covered in beautiful lace, hung carefully on a special hanger by the window. The lace sparkled in the sunlight, like tiny angel wings. I had dreamed of this day so many times, but now that it was here, I was more nervous than I had ever imagined. "Grace, lift your chin a little," the makeup artist said kindly. I took a deep breath and did as she asked. I had worked so hard to get here, long nights working as a pediatrician, emergency calls, missing holidays with family, but I had made it through all of that for this moment. My mother stood nearby, gently smoothing small wrinkles in the dress. Every movement she made showed how careful and detail-focused she was, something she had always been like, even at 62. My younger sister Rachel sat on a sofa near the window, staring at her phone. She looked a little tense. The sunlight hit her shiny blonde hair, making her look like someone from a magazine cover. "Rachel, are you okay?" I asked softly. She looked up, startled. "Huh, oh, yeah, I'm totally fine." Her answer felt off, too quick, too fake, but Mom didn't seem to notice. She was busy talking with the hairstylist about my veil. Mom always brushed off Rachel's mood swings, saying, "She's just young, let her be." Our family, the Andersons, had a long history in medicine. My great-grandfather started a practice in Chicago, and it grew over generations. My father had become chief of surgery at a major hospital and had saved countless lives with his skilled hands. He was always serious about education, especially with me, his oldest daughter. Even on holidays, he expected me to study. Hanging out with friends was rare, but when it came to Rachel, Mom let her do as she pleased. I was often told, "She's your little sister, be patient." It hurt, but I kept supporting her anyway. I still remember the day I got my acceptance letter to medical school. For once, Dad cried. He looked so proud, but Rachel had run to her room shouting, "It's always about Grace," and slammed the door. Maybe that's when something inside her started to change. Years later, I met Michael. It happened during a legal meeting at Chicago Children's Hospital about a malpractice case. The moment he walked into the room, tall, confident, I felt something shift. He handed me a file and said, "Dar, Anderson, could you take a look at these?" I nodded. "Of course, Mr. Crawford." From then on, we saw each other regularly during meetings. Sometimes, we'd bump into each other at nearby coffee shops. He was smart and calm, and I found myself drawn to him, especially his kindness and thoughtful way of speaking. Our first dinner was at a small Italian restaurant. Michael smiled shyly and said, "A doctor and a lawyer, odd match, huh? But we both help people." That moment stayed with me. His eyes were honest, and I knew deep down he was the one for me, not just because of his job or background, but because of who he was inside. I looked back into the mirror. My chestnut brown hair was styled in soft waves around my shoulders. My makeup was flawless. The tiara my mom picked out sparkled gently on my head. Everything was ready. The ceremony was about to begin, but Rachel's strange behavior still worried me. She kept looking at her phone, tapping quickly and sighing now and then. "Rachel, are you sure you're okay?" I asked again. "I'm fine, Grace, don't worry, it's your day, after all." Her words sounded cheerful, but there was something behind them, an emptiness, a fake smile. I tried to push the worry away. This was supposed to be my day. Everything would go perfectly. I kept telling myself that. Then the heavy doors of St. Patrick's Church opened. The sound of the pipe organ filled the air. The church, with its tall ceilings and stained glass windows, looked even more beautiful than usual. A red carpet stretched down the center aisle, leading to the altar where Michael stood waiting. Over 200 guests were seated in the pews, doctors, lawyers, family, friends. Their serious faces made me even more nervous. White roses and baby's breath filled the altar. The light shining through the stained glass windows painted soft rainbow colors on the floor. The window above the altar showed the Virgin Mary, her face kind and peaceful. In the bridal room, we did one last check. Then my father walked in and offered me his arm. My heart thumped hard in my chest. His arm was strong, but I could feel the gentleness in it too, a reminder of all the surgeries he had done with steady hands. Through my veil, the church looked like something from a dream. Michael stood at the altar in his dark blue tuxedo. He looked so handsome, like someone from a movie. His eyes met mine, and he smiled, a smile that made me feel just a bit calmer. Mom was sitting in the front row, elegant in her emerald green dress. She looked too young to be in her 60s. Rachel, now standing next to her, wore a soft smile. Her gold bridesmaid dress shimmered beautifully. But I noticed something, her hands were shaking. "Dad," I whispered. He gave me a reassuring nod. The same man who had pushed me so hard was now wiping away tears. As the organ played Mendelssohn's Wedding March, we walked slowly down the aisle. I could feel everyone watching me, but I kept my eyes on Michael. I was walking toward the future I had dreamed of. We stood before the priest and exchanged vows. Michael's voice shook a little when he said, "I vow to love, honor, and cherish you." I repeated the same words. "I vow to love, honor, and cherish you." Applause filled the church. Through my veil, I saw Mom wiping away tears. Later, in the limousine heading to the Drake Hotel for the reception, Michael held my hand. Outside the window, the tall buildings of Chicago sparkled in the May sunlight. As we drove along Michigan Avenue, I felt peaceful and excited. "We're really married now," he said. "Yes," I smiled, "it's the perfect day." But in the back seat, Rachel was staring at her phone again. Her fingers moved quickly, typing. Something inside me felt tight. Who was she messaging? Why did I feel uneasy? The reception hall, the Gold Coast room, was stunning. Golden lights from the chandeliers sparkled like stars. The tables were covered in white cloth, with fresh flowers in the center. Everything looked perfect. As the servers placed lobster salads on each table, my father stood up to give a toast. "I'm proud of Grace," he said. "Since she was a little girl, she wanted to help others. Today, I'm glad she's marrying someone who shares her values." Just as the next dish was served, something happened. Rachel stood up, wobbling slightly. Her cheeks were red. She was holding a champagne glass and staring straight ahead. "Can I say something too?" she said, grabbing the microphone. Her smile was wide, but wrong, too bright, too forced. My stomach sank. "I'm Rachel, the sister," she said cheerfully. "Let's not forget the real stars of the evening, the waiters." Confusion spread through the room. "Isn't serving food the perfect practice for being a bride? That's all big sister's good for anyway, right?" Gasps, shocked looks, anger. "Rachel," my father snapped. My mother looked pale. Bridesmaids were whispering and glaring. Then Michael stood up. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't look angry, but his presence filled the room. Calmly, he pulled out his phone and nodded toward the staff. A screen began to lower at the front of the room. "Then let me make a little announcement about my sister-in-law," he said. Rachel froze. Her face went pale. I knew something big was about to happen. I could feel it in my chest. The air in the room changed. The lights dimmed. The projector started. Michael stood tall and serious. No trace of his usual warmth. His voice was clear and steady. "During our wedding planning, Rachel sent me inappropriate messages." People gasped. My mother covered her mouth. My father shut his eyes. "I saved everything. Let me show you." The first image appeared. Message 1, "Don't you think I'm prettier than Grace?" Time, 2 a.m. Message 2, "Let's meet secretly. I won't tell anyone." Date, the night of our engagement party. And then, the screen went black. And the silence in the room was louder than any noise. A message from 1 month before the wedding showed up on the big screen. With every new photo and text that appeared, Rachel's face grew paler. Her beautiful champagne gold dress, once so eye-catching, now made her shaking body even more noticeable. But the most shocking part was still to come. Late-night photos Rachel had sent to Michael. Some were taken in her bedroom, with heavy makeup and poses that didn't belong in a family setting. Captions like, "Do you like this version of me?" made the whole room fall even quieter. At that moment, our mother gasped softly. Then came Michael's replies, each one calm, respectful, and clear. "This is inappropriate. Please stop. I will never betray Grace. If this continues, I will have to involve legal authorities." His words weren't cruel, they were strong, protective, and full of loyalty. He never once crossed the line. He saved every message and shared them with me, and I had chosen to stay silent. I had hoped it would stop. I had hoped Rachel would come to her senses. I didn't want to ruin our family. Michael's voice broke the silence again. "I told Grace everything. She wanted to believe in her sister. That's why we didn't make this public until now." People began to turn and look at me. I gave a small nod. The truth was out. And that's when Rachel broke. No, no, that's not true, she suddenly screamed and stood up. But her voice wasn't that of the polished, popular woman with 50,000 followers online. It was the voice of a younger Rachel, the girl who used to cry because she thought I was always better, always loved more. It's all lies, all of it. Then she fell to the floor, right there in her beautiful dress. She looked lost and broken. I hate you, big sister, she whispered. The room held its breath. Always perfect, always the one who got everything. I was always just the leftover. Tears streamed down her cheeks, mixing with the makeup she had spent hours applying. Her words spilled out, years of jealousy and anger that had been building since we were kids. I just wanted one thing that was yours, just once. I wanted to win. It was no longer about Michael, it was about years of pain, of being second best in a family that expected so much from the first child and gave too little guidance to the second. The room was completely silent now. 200 people sat frozen in shock. The light from the chandelier above gently flickered like it, too, didn't know how to react. Some of the doctors and lawyers in the room had expressions of quiet understanding. They knew what had just happened wasn't just a family fight, it was a collapse, a cry for help, and a tragedy all at once. Our father stood still, trying to hold on to the calm look he always wore in the operating room, but even he couldn't stop his hands from shaking. Mother covered her face and cried softly into her handkerchief. We didn't raise them right, she whispered. I'm so sorry, so sorry. The bridesmaids looked torn between anger and heartbreak. No one moved. That's when I stood up. My wedding dress rustled gently as I rose. Everyone turned toward me, Rachel, Michael, my parents, all of them waiting to see what I would do. I took a deep breath. Rachel, I said, my voice steady, let's stop this now. The words came out more calmly than I expected. Maybe it was all the years I'd spent as a doctor, staying calm during emergencies. I've always watched over you. I've always wanted the best for you, because you're my sister, but what you did today, I can't forgive it. Each word felt heavy, but necessary. This is your last warning, don't ever come near us again. The words echoed through the room. Rachel fell back into her seat like the strength had left her body. Mother cried harder, and father just let out a long, heavy sigh. Michael came and stood beside me, his hand gently held mine. I felt his support, his love, and I knew I wasn't alone. We didn't say goodbye to Rachel, there was no need for one, we had already moved on. Later, around 4 p.m., we returned to the ballroom. The mood had changed, but in a strange way. It was warmer, the guests clapped softly, kindly, their eyes said they understood, their smiles said, you did the right thing. The music started, at last by Etta James. Michael gently took my hand, and we began our first dance as husband and wife. We'll face everything together, he whispered. I smiled, finally feeling at peace. Yes, I'm okay, as long as I'm with you. As the reception neared its end, our parents gave short farewell speeches. We took family photos. Rachel wasn't in any of them, and for once, they didn't feel incomplete. In fact, they felt clean, like we had removed something heavy. Guests came to us with kind words. You showed real strength. This is just the beginning of your happiness. Then it was time to leave. A white limousine waited outside. As rice rained down and cheers echoed around us, I felt something change deep inside. We had lost something big that day, but I knew we had gained something even more important. Almost a year later, we lived in a quiet suburb now. Tulips and sweet peas bloomed in our little front garden. Sunlight poured into the kitchen as I brewed coffee. Our anniversary's coming soon, I said, looking out the window. Already, Michael said, smiling as he set his newspaper down. He looked so relaxed, no courtroom stress, just the man I loved, in his weekend sweater, happy and safe. We talked over breakfast about the future, kids, home renovations, careers. Life had become wonderfully ordinary, and I treasured every part of it. My parents changed too. We started having monthly Sunday dinners. Dad had retired and now taught at the university. He smiled more these days. I'm glad you're happy, he'd say, a bit awkwardly, but with warmth in his voice. Even Mom was different. She'd grown more thoughtful, less controlling, more open. We made mistakes, she said once, but we're learning. And Rachel? She moved to San Diego. She left her influencer life behind, made her accounts private, and started seeing a therapist. I heard she volunteers at local shelters now. Maybe, just maybe, she's trying to be a better person. Then, on Christmas morning, a letter arrived. Dear sister. I'm sorry, truly sorry for what I did. I've been going to therapy and facing the parts of me that I used to ignore. I don't know if I can ever make it up to you, but maybe, someday, we can be family again. Rachel. The letter had many rewrites, eraser marks, smudges. I could almost see her hand shaking as she wrote. I read it by the fireplace, emotions swirling inside, anger, sadness, love, confusion. On the mantel sat our newest family photo, me, Michael, and our parents. Beside it, I placed Rachel's letter. Outside, snow began to fall quietly. Michael wrapped his arms around me as the fire crackled softly. Time can heal, right? I asked. He nodded. And in that moment, I knew, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday, there could be healing. The snow kept falling, covering our little garden in a blanket of white. It felt like a new page in a book, one we were just beginning to write.